For several heinous murders that happened at an apartment complex, a prisoner by the name of Malcolm Rivers is currently on death row. Malcolm's journals are found improperly arranged in the case evidence, but are not used as evidence in the trial. In order to prevent Rivers from being executed, Malcolm's psychiatrist, Dr. Malik, and his defense lawyer claim that the prosecution purposefully withheld evidence and that Malcolm is legally insane. They also ask for a stay of execution. A hearing at midnight is held after this late evidence is presented to decide whether the journal is sufficient proof to grant their motion. At a remote hotel in Nevada run by Larry Washington, 10 strangers find themselves stranded in a deluge. The group includes Ed Dakota, a former police officer who now drives a limousine, Caroline Suzanne, a jaded, irritable actress, Officer Rhodes, who is transporting Robert Maine, a convicted murderer, Paris, Nevada, a call girl, Lou and Ginny Isiana, newlyweds, and the York family, George, Alice, who suffered serious injuries when Ed accidentally hit her with his limo, and their 9-year-old son, Timmy. The group prepares to care for those who have been injured upon their arrival after finding shelter and realizing the phone service has been cut off due to the storm. The group is forced to spend the night at the motel because the road is completely flooded on both ends, but an unknown killer starts killing them one by one there. Keys with sequential numbers are discovered close to the bodies of the first 3 victims, giving the group the impression that the victims are being picked off one by one. They speculate that the strange deaths could be the result of something supernatural after learning that the motel's brochure mentions Native Americans being buried nearby. Back in the court, when Malcolm's journal is read aloud at the hearing, it becomes clear that the prisoner has 10 different personalities and is suffering from a severe case of dissociative identity disorder. His journal contains writings from various personalities, each with their own distinctive handwriting and writing style, as if they were the innermost thoughts of various individuals. Malcolm's defense attorney contends that the death penalty is illegal under current Supreme Court rulings on capital punishment because Malcolm does not know the crimes for which he is being executed. Malcolm enters strapped into a wheelchair as Dr. Malik is discussing the idea of integrating the personalities of a person with a dissociative identity disorder. Using one of Malcolm's personalities, Ed, Malik is able to show that the events at the motel are actually happening inside Malcolm's head. Each personality is a unique individual, despite all having the same birthday. Malik warns Ed that he must track down and kill the hostile personality if he wants to stop Malcolm from being executed and avoid the deaths of all the personalities after learning about what happened in the motel. The first victim is Caroline. The dying woman quickly becomes the least of their concerns. When Ed discovers her severed head in a washing machine, he assumes that Maine is responsible. However, when they check the prisoner, they find that he has escaped. Ginny runs in terror to her room as the others start to worry. Lou, her husband, pursues her but is also killed. Ed discovers the number 9 key in Lou's hands while photographing the scene of Lou's crime. He starts to worry that the murderer is counting down. Maine is subdued by Rhodes and Ed after he is unable to leave the motel area. And then, Maine is killed next. While pursuing Larry, who has taken Paris hostage, Rhodes and Ed discover the number 8 key next to his body. Paris fights him off, causing Larry to attempt to run away in his truck. But as he tries to stop Larry from running over Timmy, he accidentally crushes George against a dumpster. The other visitors are told to stay until dawn, while Rhodes ties Larry to a chair. By explaining how he ended up at the motel, Larry persuades Paris and Ed that he is not the one who committed the crime. Rhodes discovers the number 6 key while checking on Alice, who is still in bed. It is assumed that she has died from her wounds. The others become confused when George's body is found and the number 7 key is discovered in his pocket. Ed requests Ginny and Timmy to escape in a car, but when they get there, it blows up. The final 4 survivors learn that none of the previous victims' bodies are present. Following a mental breakdown, Paris reveals that she was born on May 10th. It turns out that all 11 victims were born on May 10th, which also happens to be Malcolm's birthday and the day of the murders. As Ed listens to the voice calling out to him, he realizes that he is strapped to a chair in a different building and that the voice is Dr. Malik. Confused as to why he is being informed of the crimes and Malcolm Rivers' past, he discovers that he is at the meeting to argue and postpone Malcolm's execution. Dr. Malik explains that each character stands for a different aspect of Malcolm's psyche, and the killings are an attempt by his subconscious to get rid of the personalities that it believes are no longer necessary. The motel itself serves as a metaphor for Malcolm's mind, which is a constrained environment where his personality is compelled to interact. This means that Malcolm Rivers actually created his personality as a child to help him deal with the abandonment and abuse he experienced. His conception of the world consisted solely of the elements he could see inside the motel. As a result, the motel came to represent the entirety of his perception of the world for the rest of his life. He could not imagine another physical location other than the motel. Malcolm's mind created various personalities that could play the part of a traumatic reality, which helped to lessen this painful and stressful situation. The only way he could have escaped as a child was to imagine his own fantasy world. He was the ruler and the punisher in his mental establishment, the motel. Dr. Malik then orders Ed to go back to the motel to try and get rid of this identity after learning that one of the personalities is the murderous template that went on a killing spree. When Ed wakes up, he discovers himself outside in the rain, far away from the motel. In the police car, Paris discovers convict transportation files for both Maine and Rhodes. In a flashback, it is revealed that Rhodes murdered the prison guard who was driving Maine and himself, hid his body in the trunk, and then went by the man's name. Rhodes attacks Paris, but Larry intervenes to save her. Rhodes then shoots and kills Larry. Ed pursues Rhodes because he thinks he's the murderous one, but they end up shooting each other to death, leaving only Paris alive. When Malik proves that his murderous nature has died, the judge orders Malcolm to be cared for by Malik in a mental facility. The killings are finally put to an end by Ed, who turns out to be a creation of Malcolm's imagination. Ed is able to combine all of Malcolm's personalities into one, effectively saving his life. The final scene suggests that Malcolm may have escaped the death penalty, as it depicts him being led out of the courthouse as a single personality. Finally, Dr. Malik did a good job eliminating 9 out of 10 personalities of Malcolm, but his true personality, which was the abused child, was what he was unable to change in Malcolm's mind. In Malcolm's mind, Paris has returned by car to Frostproof, Florida, where she was born. She finds Timmy behind her as she tends to some soil in her orange grove and finds the Room 1 motel key. Flashbacks show that Timmy planned all of the fatalities at the motel and made it seem as though he had died alongside Ginny. Timmy murders Paris, while Malcolm strangles Malik, causing the van to swerve off the road and come to a stop before Timmy's voice repeats William Hughes' poem Antigonish. Malcolm Rivers finally becomes one single identity at this point and vanishes into the desert. Subscribe for more videos like this and turn on the notifications so you never miss any of them.